is okay.
There we go. You're always
So,
what? Sorry.
first
Yes.
of all, no,
Sorry.
Butsu.
Namo Amida.
Yeah, so we were just discussing a little before the show, so to
Yeah.
speak, pop culture, Stranger Things, and The Witcher, and all these different
Yeah.
shows, and
Highlander. Yeah.
yeah,
Henry
and
Henry Cavill.
it reminded
Everything.
me of something that I've always found, which is, as a Buddhist, you're always sort of aware of the Dharma everywhere. And so, like, whenever I'm
Yeah.
watching shows, and it's not like I'm
Exactly.
not like trying to put like some sort of to view everything through a Buddhist lens or something, you know? It's not something I'm doing consciously, but sometimes when I'm watching something, something will pop up and I'll just think, ah, this comes to mind. This reminds me of this, or
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
this is very Buddhist.
Yeah.
This is
Exactly.
very, maybe not even
Same.
specifically Buddhist, but this is very, has sort of a religious element or some sort of a spiritual. There's some spiritual implications here,
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
and if you watch the Stranger Things, um, one of the themes of that is there's a mother who literally will stop at nothing to get her missing son back. And I don't think that's too much of a spoiler or anything,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
and I saw in that there's actual there's a sort of
Like
parallel there with
Amida. Amida
the
is our mother. Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
mother as compassion
Yeah.
seeking
Yeah.
the lost person,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
of course that's and so, but I find that it's never something I'm consciously doing. It's just something that I'll see something or I'll read something and I'll
Oh
think,
yeah.
reminds me of
Completely. Yeah. No, yeah, completely. I do the same
yeah.
thing with anything I'm watching. Yeah. As because I'm always making references to it, and I actually have a whole series. Obviously, it's obvious I do that because I started a whole series of screening Shinsu. So, you know, but yeah. So no, I know exactly what you mean. That even Highlander, it's about immortals, and there's this whole kind of uh, you know, you know. So it's a lot to explain, but basically, I almost kind of like makes me think of the theme. A lot of the themes are about it's there. He's always seeing his loved ones perish because
Mm,
he's living forever. The immortals live forever, and they watch their you know and that pain of that. The stuff and it's about impermanence. There's a lot of themes of impermanence in the film, and even their lives aren't there's a reason that their lives end. I won't tell you that in case spoilers or whatever, but there's a
no
reason that
spoilers.
their lives have to end. It's built
Yeah.
into their kind of
Yeah.
drives and things that they have to do. That they have to be part of this thing that in the end there's only one of them. And anyway, um, so but and I always I think of them as like Bhuma Devas. Like I see them as they're in between a god and a the you can't help it. You just can't help like it makes you reflect on aspects of the Dharma or Buddhist cosmology or whatever. But anyway, yeah.
I'm reminded of something that
Even in
Reverend.
unexpected places, it pops out. Even there's things where it's not you wouldn't think and then there's a line in this comedy or something, and you're like, whoa, yeah.
Yeah, reminded of something Reverend Ray said was giving this talk at one of the temples in California. I think maybe it was San Luis Obispo. I don't remember what temple, but anyway, it's on YouTube. And he says, um, he's talking about Dharma school, which is like Sunday school, but in a Buddha, Jodo Shinshu temple for kids. And he says, one of the responsibilities or one of the things we are trying to do as Dharma school teachers, is to to get the kids to see the teaching everywhere, in anywhere. You know, in
Mm,
other words,
yes,
to have that receptivity, that sort of, you know, Dharma eye, if you will,
yeah,
to sort of
definitely.
be able to find, even if it's not explicitly, you know, the doctrinal language or the terminology of Jodo
Exactly.
Shinto, the teaching is the teaching, right? Like we always talk about how the words rely on the meaning, not the
Oh,
words. And so
sorry. Yeah,
you find that meaning, that truth in many different places, all over the place. And so that just, I was
no,
reminded of
I
that.
agree. I
Definitely.
hear in songs, music, you know, um, all sorts of aspects of just life in general and culture and conversations I'll hear people having or that I'm, participating in. Um, yeah, I think at some point you can't help but that be, you know, kind of, it's a good thing. I'm, glad for it
Well, I
when it's
mean,
happening.
the Dharma is life itself. So if we are
Yeah,
alive, then we are
exactly.
engaging with the Dharma. I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
Zen does a much better job of making this explicit, I think, for people, especially in the West. But
Mm,
um, but I think in our tradition too, even though we have the more you know, expansive language and so on, you know, it's still important to realize that life is the Dharma. You know, that this life
yep.
is the
Yep.
Dharma, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's well, and and there's dharmas within the dharma.
Yeah. It's,
It's all
it's
dharma. It's dharma in more than one sense. It's all the dharmas as in phenomena and the dharma as in the teaching. So yeah. Anyway.
yeah, it's the you know, the field of the working of other power, right?
Yeah. Right. And
Everywhere.
speaking of which, need to talk about. I mean, my there's probably three aspects of this doubt that are all connected together. I think that we need to talk about. And it's my big one. We'll get
Mm.
the one out of the way quick. Well, it might not be quick, but
Gankai, your internet connection is definitely coming in and out. I wonder, did you move farther away from your Wi-Fi possibly, or
I had to close the door. Let me just make sure it's on the right setting. One sec. Bear with a moment. Just check we're on the right, not the right setting, but the right Wi-Fi. Yes, we are. So
okay,
um,
might be
I had to
fine now.
close my door. Let me see if I slightly move it over here. Go from this angle. Does that make it any better?
Yeah, it's fine now. Let's see if it drops out again, and
Okay.
then go from there.
So, all right. So first of all, should we do something? What's it actually before we get into the
Yes,
actual
sure. All right.
conversation? Yeah.
Namo Amida Butsu, Namo
Mirabatsu,
Amida
Namo
Butsu,
Mirabatsu, Namo Mirabatsu, Namo,
Namanda, Nama.
Namo, Namo, Namo. Yeah. So
Yes.
the um so the one part of the doubt is the usual is the not usual, but the um how do I put it? The just disbelief side. You know, the once you deconstruct, once you get to a point where in your journey, let's call it your philosophical spiritual journey, and this happened to me years ago, where this decades ago really, where you're deconstructing everything, where every nothing goes almost survives the deconstruction, When you're looking at everything and you're questioning everything, and you get to where you kind of see through social things, society, you see through things about, with your family and how the family works and how society works and your so-called community works. And, and then you see through, and you literally not only see through it from experience, so there's the experience side of seeing the bullshit, basically, pardon my French, but then you see then you go through it and you see you have the kind of methodology to do that with like sociology and you know and do you know what I mean? Methods of actually looking at these things, social science, and you start applying those things. And then you get to religion and spirituality, and you see the same patterns in every religion. And I'm sorry, Buddhism has the same patterns. It does. It's just more better. It's just not as obvious, I'd say, but it still has the same patterns that other religions do, and whereas the teaching is like the foundations of it, the teachings is far superior to other religions. It still has. So when you get to a certain point of like, okay, yeah, then you have to. There's a point where you have to like a foundational aspect of it is of Buddhism is rebirth. The whole idea of rebirth, not just in the you know second to second, nanosecond to nanosecond sense of that, but like actual rebirth, many past existences, etc. And
Right. As distinct, of
that
course, from reincarnation, right?
right,
Technically.
yeah, reincarnation. There's not a permanent like the same kind of soul moving through,
Mhm.
but there is a point where you have to accept, okay, there's something, there's samsara and nirvana and the same thing, ultimately, but like you have to accept that there's a Buddha nature to things. So that's another, so there's a rebirth, your Buddha nature, you kind of have, that's a foundational kind of thing that you have to come to see and accept, I think
Yeah,
without,
well, what's
and
interesting.
be very confident in that. Okay, so that's another thing. Okay, so
Yeah,
let me just list through them. We go through all
sure,
the.
sure.
So there's
Yeah,
that, and then there's the, and that's just kind of like, that is it's a spiritual belief. Like you can't, unless you can really, you can see the like the other teachings that apply to the natural world of Buddhism, they really work. You can see it. You can see how that functions. But then you get to those points of, okay, yeah, I can see that part of the map, but I can't ultimately see off the map. You know what I mean? I can't see Buddha nature. I can't see or remember these past existences and rebirths.
right.
I can't, you know what I mean? And then you get to these, and with Buddha nature, you get to the different the different bodies of that, of Buddha nature, of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, and you know what I mean. And then we're Buddha nature, but we're an ignorant aspect, of the we've become ignorant and can't, you know, um, and because of our you know ignorance, we're in samsara. So do you see what I mean? But there's a lot that, even though a lot of the teachings in Buddhism you can accept as a natural, you can see it. You can really see it in the
Mm,
natural world. You can see it even in the sciences. You can see it in different aspects of the way, even in other disciplines. You can see in their, you know what I mean, um,
yeah.
approach how things function. Like, yeah, that's kind of what the Dharma says. Even social sciences kind of like, in psychology and stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much what. Do you know what I mean? You can see it. It's already that, but there's aspects you can't. There's aspects you just kind of and that's part of this is the big doubt. This is
Mhm.
the stuff I haven't. I've, other doubts are kind of, I think this is what it boils down to. Either, yeah, well, this not just this. This is one part of it. So, and then you go to the Jodo Shinshu Pure Land Buddhist teachings about, you know, Amida Buddha, and there's this future thing, that of Shinjin, and there's this future thing of the Pure Land, and it's like, well, how is that different than, the millennialist thing of the Christians eschatology,
Yeah.
the other Abrahamic religions, they have their own, eschatology of a similar thing. Eventually, there's going to be this paradise, and then even the materialists have the ideologies that we're going to have this utopia. Someday we'll have this utopia. We just have to, if we get rid of these people that think this way politically, and we change this about everything, about the way we do everything, whatever it is, agriculture or whatever it is, then we just have to get it all together, and we'll keep trying, expecting different results, but it keeps doing the same thing. Anyway,
Mhm.
the same ideologies keep doing the same result, get the same results. You know what I mean? But they keep thinking, yep, but we didn't get it quite right. It wasn't. We didn't have this element. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, so it's like there's this waiting for and this belief, and so once you see through all that, it's it's hard not for me to not go, okay, if I'm testing this gold, is it going to survive? It has to survive me.
You have
Buddhism
to be
has
critical.
to pass that test. It has to, and then there's the whole thing of the similar thing with Buddhism where it blames you for not getting it. Like it blames, you know what I mean? Like just like every other religion and every other ideology or whatever it is, somehow it's you that isn't doing it right, or isn't seeing it, doesn't have the right view, or you don't. Do you know what I mean? Well, that's because and then in Jodo Shinshu, it's your calculations. Even though Amida's light gets everywhere and goes everywhere, but you have these calculations, and it's your fault again. It's the
Right.
practitioner's fault.
Well,
It's always the
it's
practitioner's
always
fault. It's always, you see what I mean? It's never the fault of the belief system or the ideology or the
right.
religion. It's the practitioner's fault. You know, oh well, that's because you can't see that it's God's will, or you can't
Yeah.
see that
Yeah.
this utopia is really the best thing, so that we're all taken care of in this utopic, or you
Yeah.
can't see that, I don't know, you know what I mean? And in Buddhism, it's things like, well, you obviously you don't have conviction enough, confidence in the teachings enough. So you see what I mean? And it's like, well,
Or you haven't.
yeah,
Yeah.
or you
Or
haven't practiced enough. You haven't
whatever.
practiced enough,
Yeah.
or you haven't done the practice right, or you haven't, it's just because you're an ignorant being, and, you're a bamboo. So,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? And so it's just has that whole, it's very convenient thing. So this is one frame of it. So I don't know if you want to do this part first to discuss this.
Well, let's just have the conversations.
Yeah.
I think you should
Okay.
continue.
Okay. Get it
I'm
all on
having
the
like,
table.
but yeah.
Yeah, okay, getting it all on the table. So, right, so there's that. And then there's the um so there's that leg of it, I guess we'll call. It's like a tripod probably, holding this thing
Mm.
up, this um and then there's the aspect, okay, when I'm not in that frame of mind, when I'm not in that sort of secular questioning frame of mind. Oh,
Mm.
and yeah, so when I'm not, oh, sorry, actually, yeah. So when I'm not in that frame of mind, okay, then it's, here I am still waiting for Shinjin to settle after almost 20 years. Here I am, you know, uh, um, you know, in my, and my experience, a lot of times isn't matching up with what I'm reading in the teachings, or, about what I should be, how, I don't know. So it just makes me go, well, that it's like, well, that raises doubts then, you know, am I just waiting around for something that's not, and this is kind of part of that is all the, over my spiritual journey, I've had a very similar process I've gone through with each of these different aspects of life, including religions, and you get to the point where you keep giving it a chance, and then so eventually you don't give it a chance anymore, and Buddhism was always my one that seemed to not fall to that, everything else did, everything else has fallen to that scrutiny and to that just giving up on it, and just seeing, what I call kind of seeing through it. It's Buddhism has always seemed to survive that, you know what I mean? Of all the things I keep coming back, because that was always there underneath all of my spiritual journey. Anything else I looked into, anything else I explored, anything else I tried to embrace or experience, Buddhism was always there in the background that I would always come back to. You see what I mean? And it just never. But my worry is eventually the same thing's it's gonna go the way of the other things, all other, it's not just religion, but other aspects of life and culture and society and, different, politics, everything has lost to that battle, has lost that battle. Buddhism has never lost the battle yet, but my worry is it will eventually. Um, um, so that's another aspect of it, is the waiting around, and then you're like, how is that different than waiting around for, the Christians, their metanoia, or you know what I mean, or other aspects of all those things, that waiting around. Well, eventually, so just keep doing these things, because eventually there's that hope that that there's going to be this difference. Do you know what I mean? There's going to be this different thing. There's going to be this new, you know what I mean? If you just hang, do you know what I mean? And just do what the teachings say, or do the what's expected, or do you know what I mean? What have you?
Yeah,
So
well,
with that,
that's
I'm not sure if I'm even expressing that very well. I know
no,
what
I
I
think
mean.
you
I'm
are.
not sure
I
if
think
I'm
you are.
expressing very well what I mean. So there's that part of it. So that's, and then another, I wouldn't say whether this is a tripod. It's just, this is another complicating aspect of
Hmm.
this, this dance of doubts. Let's call it a dance of doubts. Um,
Yeah.
there's this, then there's the part of me that is, well, actually, I don't disbelieve enough to completely let it go, but I don't really believe enough to I don't buy into it. I don't believe enough to fully buy into it, but I don't disbelieve enough to fully pull out, pull all my stakes out, pull all my money out, quote unquote, my,
Mhm.
my, you know what I mean? My investment
Yeah.
I don't have, not, there's not enough for me to fully invest. I don't have enough belief to fully invest, to be motivated to fully invest, I don't have enough trust to fully invest, but then I don't have enough disbelief or distrust to fully divest myself. Do you see what I mean? Spiritually speaking,
Right. The
from the
phrase
past.
"I don't have enough
So
trust" is an interesting one. We could
yeah,
definitely,
well, that's there.
speaking of
That just, yeah,
deconstruction, I think we could
exactly.
deconstruct that a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. So this is kind of, and then the whole thing of the different, arguments that would come forth. I'm ready for them, like the whole,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Because I've been through it before with other patterns. So
Well, and
the
you
usual
also,
stuff that people would go to, you know, I'm not saying you would, but I'm saying other people in maybe other groups I've been a part of, they went to the
mhm.
same reasonings. I'm like, you're just doing the same thing that Christianity does, or the same thing that
Been there, done that.
any other Abrahamic religion does, or any or paganism does, or anything else that or New Agers do. You know, there's a New Age, the Age of Aquarius. It's just around the corner. It's gonna be great if you just, you know. So anyway, but any of those belief systems, whatever it is, or even just if you're questioning normal life, what people who want to defend the normative life
Right.
do. It's the same exact pattern of stuff, and it doesn't help their argument. It actually, because I've been through it, I know what's coming. I'm
Yeah.
already like, you're just now worsening the doubts. You're worsening my trust. You're lessening my trust, and you're pushing me away with this because I've seen it before, been there, done that. Do you see what I mean? So yeah,
Well, and let's be honest, um, probably the interpretation, some of the interpretations of Shinbuism that you've been, getting in the past have been very simplistic, dualistic,
yeah,
not even
yeah,
necessarily, I mean, I think it's
yeah,
arguable how even Buddhist they are.
yeah. True.
But
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I agree.
um,
Agree. Yeah, definitely agree.
you
Um,
know, I think do you want to continue to is that
no, I think that we covered it. I think other things will come up if we discuss it. But
yeah,
and we've talked about this before,
we have,
um,
yes. I do think
or
that
we've talked about aspects of it before, you know,
right.
as well, and overall before. But it's it's definitely it's the big daddy of the doubts. It's the trifecta of doubts. It's the
The sticking point, as it
yeah,
were.
yeah. It's a good that, and it has that tripod structure. It's got that, triangle structure. So it's a very strong. At least it seems like that to me. A strong a strong structure of habituation.
Mhm.
a strong a strong structure of ego habituated um, thought.
Mm.
Anyway, we put it in Buddhist terms of some description, but
There's a quote by Shakespeare. It's not coming. It's on the edge of my mind, and it's not coming, unfortunately. But it seems appropriate to
it
the
fits
discussion.
the
It's what did they used to call the obstacle on a bowling course? It's not coming to me. But anyway, um,
okay. Sorry.
yeah, I know what you're saying. Um, there are some. Let's just say there are some gnarly snags in the troughs of the channels of faith.
Yes, yes, indeed. Is that what it says? Is that the Shakespeare? Is
That's
that
not what
something?
Shakespeare said.
But is it something along those lines? That there's a
uh,
something
yeah, it's
I can't recall
quote
what
by
I can't
Shakespeare.
think of even which reference you're thinking of.
Yeah,
I would love for you to find it if you can, because I love
I
Shakespearean
would love to find it too, and I am desperately
references
Googling
and
it even as we speak, but
uh,
I'm not
yeah,
sure.
it's a big, yeah, there's some basic, yeah, definitely a very entangling mess
Yeah.
of like, you've got a, there's branches caught up on each other, grasses, in the, in the channel. There's maybe even a beaver house there. There's a beaver dam, as it were. There's like, you know, yeah, it's all together. It's all tangled up together.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I just found it, by the way. I can't believe I couldn't remember this. This is embarrassing. It's from Hamlet. There's the rub.
yes,
There's the rub.
exactly.
And the rub, of course, is like an obstacle in some sort of bowling game. I think they
Yeah,
played back.
yeah,
Um, but
yeah.
anyway, yeah. So. this is a great topic. I mean, the thing is you're gonna get so many, you know, um, depending on who you talk to, of course, you're gonna get so many different responses and answers. Like you said, you've heard all the
Oh,
facile,
before we, yeah, actually, before we begin,
responses
there is a fourth
already,
aspect
as
of
have I. Um,
can I just say one more thing,
and
Ken? So Ken,
there's always that game of sort of pointing it back to you, and saying that, well, you have issues, and there's nothing wrong with our dogma, but the problem is with you, which of course is
yeah,
the classic. It's really, I mean, I would say that any religion that does that is, I don't want to label, um, and use this word lightly, but any religious group, let's say, that does that, they're engaging in a classic cult-like behavior, you know. Um, it's
yeah,
basically gaslighting. It's
yeah,
like, you know, you have issues, and we are perfectly fine, and there's nothing wrong with what we teach. So that, I think, is a problem, no matter what the group is, no matter what religion or whatever they
mm,
are. We as human beings, I think, we're very prone to this kind of, unfortunately, this kind of cult-like thinking.
mm.
It's just kind of the way we evolved, I think. It's
I was,
partly
yeah,
wired in.
I was gonna
Probably
say,
as like some sort of survival strategy. I
yeah,
mean, in group and out
exactly. That's what I
group
was gonna say.
and all of that.
Can you hear me, by the way?
I
Can you
get
hear me?
your internet
Okay,
is not looking so
not
good, but
great.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Let me hold on. I'm gonna just open the door here for a second. I think that because I had to close the door just so I'm just gonna quickly do that. Open the door a bit, and hopefully that will make a difference. Maybe the signal's just not getting through into the
Sure.
room enough. But anyway, yeah, I was going to say that about that's there's just I was just that whole time you're talking is like, yeah, this is there's an aspect of a
Right.
survival mechanism to preserving all these things, both genetically and memetically, speaking. You're looking at the evolutionary level.
Yeah.
There's that aspect of what we call cult like behavior is kind of in
Yeah.
if you can see that in every aspect of life, not just religion. You
Oh
can
yeah.
see
Yeah.
if something is threatened, some aspect of culture is, or some,
Mm,
do you know what I mean? Or some aspect of the way life is supposed to
yeah.
be. People react that similar way. But anyway, there's one other aspect of it that I wanted to say I didn't fully
Mm,
flesh out about the part of
please.
I'm waiting, and it's when I have my what I call my Queen Vaidehi diva tantrums. Uh, um, I'm sick of this world. It's I mean, the pain, the enduring aspect of this Saha world, you know, weighs on. It feels like it weighs on me a lot of the time. Like I won't go into this because I've talked about things before, but just like the visceral existential kind of uh, uh, pain of existence. You know what I mean? The suffering, this that just in every aspect of it, which is what it is. It's deep dukkha. We're in deep dukkha. You're in the Saha world.
Mm-hmm.
That, and then you're waiting around. You know, well, and I'm not saying my suffering is going to be over. I know that. I know that with in Shinyan. I know that suffering goes on until the end of the slide. If you have if Shinjin settles, you have the assure, but there's a difference. You have the assurance, have that assurance. You have that underlying, thing that makes that, you're in the state of non-retrogression. So and without doubt it's true. That alone, that's not going to take away the suffering. But if that would make it, I can see where that would make a huge difference to the experience of it. Make a huge difference to that, that bodhisattva thing that, well, it makes, we talked about before, when when Shinjin has settled, and because of Amida's, power and the and they bring, and his power brings you to the state of non-retrogression. It's that similar thing of the rest of this lifetime, or how I've been experiencing, is going to, in a sense, feel like it drops in a bucket, drops in the ocean, rather than, oh, I'm going to go, how many more decades of this am I going to have to endure? It's a very, and
Yeah,
it seems like from the teachings, it flips everything around, and you have a sense of gratitude in everything. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like, yeah, okay, you're
right.
still gonna be suffering, but that's a big difference to life. To have you're that be flipped, and you have gratitude now about everything. You feel like the rest of these, however long you're gonna live, is a drop in the bucket, suffering wise, and you have the assurance that all the teachings are true, that and that 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 you're going to go to Pure Land and become a Buddha and come back, and do you know what I mean, in multiple forms and help beings. You have that assurance.
Mhm.
That is a huge thing. Like, I can see that, and
Yeah.
I feel like, for frick's sake, when the frick is it gonna, you know, when's it gonna happen? And you know, um, so that's a big part of it too. That weakens, that strengthens the other
Yeah.
aspects of things I'm talking about. Do you see what I mean? And kind of backs them up.
Can I make a
And it's
comment on
very,
that?
yeah. So that's kind of fully fleshed out, the 3 or 4 aspects of this doubt that I think kind of all connect, you know what I mean, and support each other.
Right. So I was gonna say, when you were discussing that particular point, Shinron Shonin actually goes way farther than just saying that, oh, this life is bearable because we can look forward to the Pure Land,
Yeah, yeah,
He actually says that all of the evil, all of the bad stuff,
yeah, yeah.
I would say,
It's turned into the highest good.
yeah, from past, present, and future
Yeah.
is transformed into the highest good.
Whereas right now I regret it.
Yeah.
But after that, it's a state of not, you're just grateful. You're like, oh, I can see how, do you know what I mean? You see it differently somehow. That's why I don't buy the whole nothing special. I just
Yeah.
like, how can you say, like, everything I see in the teachings, that's literally not the teaching. That's
Yeah.
literally counter to the teaching of Jodo Shinshu, to say, it's just non-retrogression. It's just Shinjin. It's nothing special. No big
Yeah.
deal. That's a
Just
huge
simply.
deal. It's a huge deal. Like, I can't, like, how, like what I read of Shinran's writings, and everything about Shinjin and everything about this path. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, So yeah. So anyway, sorry. Go ahead with what you're saying.
Yeah. And so this, as you say, this is huge. This is a transformation, right? On a
Yeah,
fundamental.
yeah,
This is, it's
exactly.
like in Yogacara when it talks about um the transformation of the base, you
Yeah,
know, which is uh the uh the container mind, or the I forget all the terminology, but anyway, in Yogacara philosophy, teaching or philosophy. There's this transformation of the base that occurs in regard to, but that's of course in regard to enlightenment. Obviously, Shinjin is not equal
Right.
to
Exactly.
the transformation of the base in Yogacara, but it's a transformation nonetheless. And it certainly isn't, merely a simple faith, whatever that even means. It's a bit too vague to be useful, in my opinion. But this is a part, I struggle with this. I mean, the total transformation of all the evil, and by evil, Aku, it means, I don't want to use words that we shouldn't use, but all the bad stuff, I'll just say, okay? all the bad stuff is transformed
I think the
into
translation of it in the collected works is trans transforms. Well, I don't know if it starts with transform, but there's a change of the past, present, and future evil karma into the highest good. Is that what it? Something along that line. I think it is, isn't it?
yes, that's correct.
Past evil karma, past, present, and future evil karma. Is that, or is it just karma? Doesn't even put evil on it, maybe.
Yeah, in fact, I'm looking to see if we can
Because even
find.
actually, good karma isn't necessarily good in Buddhism, is it? It's still karma. It's still, you've got to get to a point where you've gone beyond. That's what
Right.
Buddha nature is. That's what
I found the
becoming a Buddha
passage.
is.
Maybe we should.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. If you can share it, I'll allow sharing. One sec.
okay.
Let me
Is
allow the
by the
sharing.
way, is my video breaking up at all, or my voice
It was,
is?
yeah, it was getting stuck, but I could still hear you. The
Okay.
audio wasn't.
I
The
wonder if
audio was
it's.
fine, but the video was sticking.
Huh.
Um,
Very strange.
hold
I
on.
wonder.
Oh, there we
I
go.
mean,
There's the share.
I did try an internet test to see if the problem was on my side. But yeah. Okay. Let's
Uh,
see the share
hold on a
screen.
second. I'm trying to find. Uh, I'm trying to give you permission to do that. Have
Okay.
you been able to? One sec.
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Not sure how to do that. There we go. It's over here. Meeting settings. There we go. Nope. I can't. Unfortunately, I can't, on the setup on my phone.
Oh, it's the mobile
I can't.
version.
Yeah, it's the mobile.
No
Yeah,
problem. Let me
mobile
just
version.
read it.
So
I'll
just
just
read
read
it.
it.
Yeah, just read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry,
okay. So
unscripted, teleprompter
yeah,
free
this
here at
yeah.
the Gankai channel. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, it's definitely better that way. Okay, so this is from Notes on Essentials of Faith Alone, our favorite book. Um, and it's talking about the meaning of jinin or naturalness. And Shinron says ji also means of itself. Of itself is a synonym for jinin, which means to be made to become so. To be made to become so means that without the practicers calculating in any way whatsoever, all that practicers past, present, and future evil karma is transformed into the highest good, just as all waters upon entering the great ocean immediately become ocean water. Wow.
Yeah.
And then we are made to acquire the Tathagata's virtues through entrusting ourselves to the vow power, hence the expression made to become so. Since there is no contriving in any way to gain such virtues, it is called jinin. And this concept of transformation, because that's radical, right? Like all of the evil karma you know. And of course, we need to be careful with by evil karma. Um, that in Buddhism that's has a broader meaning than just the stuff
Mhm.
that I think that I'm doing, right? There's more of a you know interrelational aspect to the evil karma in
Yeah,
this sense. It's you know all the bad stuff, as I said, all the things, not just the things I do, but the things that are done to me, right? And all of it is transformed into the highest good. Not just good, but the highest good. In other words, the pure good of
the yeah, like
Tathagata.
you're it's turned into exactly. You're like
Yeah,
you are actually you become part of Amida's mission. You become the
yeah.
actual yeah
And this is sometimes expressed in terms like seishu fusha, which means embracing and not forsaking, We're embraced and not forsaken by the working of the other power and of Amida and so on. And you know, this is a hard one. This is a tough nut to crack because we all have regrets, and sometimes it's very hard to look back at stuff and say, there was no point to that. And I don't see that there ever will be a point to that. And that was just something that shouldn't have happened. Yeah, or
yeah
that I shouldn't have done, that shouldn't have been done to me,
yeah
you know.
yeah
I
yeah
mean, and so I struggle with it. But then what is the mind that's making that judgment? Who is making
exactly
that?
yeah
I
exactly
am making that
yeah
judgment. And what is that? What is Shinron saying? Calculate without the practicer
yeah
calculating, which is what I'm doing,
yeah
in any way whatsoever. We are made to that is transformed. So my calculations don't play a role in that transformation, which frankly is good because if it was up to me, there's no way
yeah
that any of that evil
and
would
that
be being.
and that's what it a lot of this stuff comes down to that you know I could see from the eye if from the eyes of a Buddha they could
Mm,
see all kinds of possibilities of how that could be turned into good. Do you know what I mean? All those past things, present things, and
yeah,
future things could be turned into good, and how to even do that. But me,
yeah,
from my ignorant sensoric perspective, I'm just not going to be able to see that. But that's part of this comes back to part of my doubts is like, okay, yeah, that's all well and good, but all I have is
yeah,
this is my perceptions. You
right,
know, I'm not, I can't see it that,
yeah, and yet,
and whether and how much do I, it's that whole thing of how
right,
much do I really believe that there
yeah.
is that Buddha mind that can see it from a different angle. Do you see what I mean?
Well,
There's
I
that
don't
part
even
of me
think.
does, and part of me doesn't. Part of me is, and this could be where it comes in that our calculations have no have no role in it. Don't
Well, the
don't.
Buddha mind, the first of all, the Buddha mind is inconceivable. So
Yeah,
we don't even need to talk about it really, because the more we
yeah.
talk about it, the less we'll
But
understand
but
it.
but this is another aspect. This is part of the doubt. This
Does it really exist? Or is there really
like
I think
just to say it's like is that doesn't do anything for my doubt. It just is
yeah,
like, oh, a convenient way not to talk about it. Do you see what I
right.
mean?
Yeah, I do.
That's where it,
Yeah.
that's where I get, you know. On the other hand, I can see the 14 questions. I can see why he said, okay, answering these is only going to cause you more problems,
More grief.
like more grief, and it's going to take you further away from the whole point of my teaching. You know what I mean? And I can see that. I can see that, like, there's certain things you can't, that doesn't help me. Do you see when I'm in this frame of mind, that doesn't help. Do you see what I mean? That
Mhm.
doesn't, that
Yeah, I
doesn't,
do. And you know, I want to suggest, like, for example, okay, the so it's a challenge, right? Or it's a hard,
Yeah,
it's a difficulty to see from our point, from my point of view,
yeah,
how, well, because I have regrets, if I could hit a time machine button and go back and redo
yeah,
some things,
yeah,
I mean, who wouldn't take that opportunity, right? I mean, it's something we fantasize about. Oh, I wish I could just go back, or the things you would tell yourself if you were, if you could talk to yourself at 20, you'd like shake yourself by the shoulders and say, okay, here's what's going down, and I'm gonna, tell you what you need to do. So it's something I struggle with. Um, but it's interesting, even on a simply, let's forget about quote unquote Buddhism, okay? And just talk about this from a point of view of, you know, there have been people to whom and really terrible things have happened to these people, okay? And I have been comparatively fortunate in my life so far. I would say I've been, fairly um blessed. I don't really like that word, but I mean, I've had a fairly comparatively uneventful life. Let's put it that way. But there are people to whom, terrible things happen. And yet somehow those very same people at some point are able to look back and say, you know what? That thing that I thought was just the worst ended out mysteriously and strange and unexpectedly becoming the catalyst or something that I look back
or, yeah,
with gratitude on
hmm,
because it
hmm.
happened, because of the effects, because of how
In the
something
end,
played out
it,
in their life,
yeah, 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 exactly, yeah.
that they couldn't see at the time, when they were in that moment, you know. But they
We're
are
in that
somehow
suffering for
nevertheless
years and years
enabled
and
to look
years.
back and
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
you know, I don't regret this or that, or or in some cases even say I'm glad that this thing happened. So again, the mind, it's dependent on our
mm,
mind,
hmm,
you know, which is what we learn in Buddhism. We're taught in Buddhism, of course, that our mind, the mind precedes all
yeah,
things, right? It's in Dharmapada, it's in one of the oldest texts, right? Um, so for me, like, let's not even make the leap into all of the more abstract teachings and so on, but starting right there, we can see that for some people, in certain cases, evil is transformed into good. And not necessarily the highest good, but there's a sense in
some
which
kind of good.
some sort of transformation takes place that people are aware of. So I think that could be like a sort of starting point where you might start to think about, okay, maybe this is possible, you know, or clearly it
Yeah.
is for some people. Now, and then, of course, um, but that's just a thought. I don't know. What do you
Hmm,
think?
hmm. Um, well, I've been through a similar process, um, in various ways with different things
Hmm.
like that, where I tried to say, okay, look at that, let's look at this. Okay, if I have to just go from my experience and you know, and the experience of the world and things I know in the
Yeah.
world, then let's look at that. See if there's something that you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And often, if I go from that, I'll say, yeah, that could just, there's a way to if you're going with something that's in the natural world, it's very easy to come up with a natural explanation for that. So in the case of people who have gone through severe suffering, and I've experienced this myself, there's you can kind of there's a survival mechanism there
Yeah.
to
Rationalize or to,
and come up with this narrative. You see
yeah.
what I mean? And
That
that's part of
everything
the problem.
happens
And,
for a
and that,
purpose and so
yeah,
on.
and it has a purpose and it, oh, great. I'm very
Yeah.
grateful. And that's part of the, in Buddhism, and this is the problem where I get into too, is that's part of the problem. Creating narratives is that the narratives we create is part of the ignorance, is part of
Right.
the,
Yeah.
the attachment, the cycle of the, the three poisons. Um, it's part, that creating that narrative is our is why we're deluded. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Our
Yeah.
ability to do that. So it's not, so that's another thing where I, then the Buddhist teachings will come in and go, yeah, but you can't really, you can't really use that either. Like you can refute that on a natural level, but also you can look at the Buddhist teachings and they'll go, yeah, and that's a, do you see what I mean? So this is what I mean. Like it's a very strong, it's a very strong doubt. Um, and I've also experienced that myself where I've been great, said I was grateful for this something, and I look back, I'm like, that still sucks. That's still just bad. You know what I mean? It's just is what it is. But anyway, so but I don't want to take away from people's life experience though at the same time. If that has brought them, if that's brought them, some kind of peace, happiness, and
Mm.
and a purpose and a way to live, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So
Yeah.
I don't want to, you see what I mean? I don't want to take that away from anyone. Just because I can't sustain that sort of thinking doesn't mean I want to deprive others from being able to do so themselves.
Well,
I'm
and
not,
it's,
you know what I mean? Just because I can't, you know
yeah.
what I mean, can't do that. I don't want others to not be able to do it.
Right.
And I want to be able to say that's a good thing for, you know what I mean? But it doesn't solve my problem. It doesn't, you see what I mean? Um,
Mm.
at the same time, uh, there's there's a strong part of me that wants it really badly to be true. So this is probably to do with the not enough doubt, not enough distrust to disinvest, and not enough full trust, and not enough, you know, belief to go all in, type of thing. Um, but there's a part of me that really badly wants it to be, I'm like Mulder. I'm like Fox Mulder. I want to believe. I want it to be true. I really, now, not UFOs and that stuff, that nonsense. That's a whole nother uh, game that people play on themselves. I'm not saying that there aren't phenomena and there aren't, you know what I mean? But anyway, what I'm
Mm.
trying to say is I really want it to be true. I really want, um, I really want, um, I really want the teachings of Buddhism to be true as they seem to be. I really want there to be Buddha nature because that makes things, it really makes sense. Do you see what I mean? It really makes sense. That really works on a certain level, whatever limited that level I can conceive of. But I
Mm.
really want that to be true. I really want Amida Buddha to be true, everything about the teachings of Jodo Shinshu teachings to be true.
Mm.
Everything about the experience of Shinjin to be true. Everything about going to Pure Land to be true. I want it to be true that I'm going to become a Buddha and come back. I deeply, on a very deep, visceral, spiritual, um, bottom of my heart, mind, whole being, want that to be true type of thing.
Yeah.
But that's not enough. It's never enough.
Yeah. Merely wanting something
it's still
you
not
cannot
satisfactory.
communicate it right.
It's not satisfactory. It's not enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't bring me over the, you see what I mean? And then on the
Yeah.
flip side, flip side, this is also part of this doubt and this dance of doubts. Flip side, if I go to, okay, the heck with it. None of it's true. Okay, if I do that, then all there is philosophical pessimism, existential absurdism, and like antinatalism. Yeah, it's
Right.
like it's Schopenhauer. All I have is Schopenhauer. Yeah, like that's it. That's life. That's all. And
The
that
comforts
thought,
of
like
Western.
when I really go there, and I'm Russ Cole, and again, and then I'm Russ Cole again. That's an intolerable, like that. I don't want that to be true, but
Yeah.
I really think it is. Like I really desperately, deeply, powerfully, from the bottom of my heart, mind, don't want that to be true, but I think it is. There you go.
Yeah.
Now I've said it. I've said it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
And
those. That's
I can
everything.
relate.
That's the whole package. And is that? But that's not enough. Is that it? Is it enough? My fear of that enough to embrace something that I'm not completely 100% sure about. Do you see what I mean? Even that's not enough. What's going to be enough? What's going to
Mm,
be enough? And it's all this is all samsara, so it's none of it's enough. None of it's satisfactory. It's all dissatisfactory. There's not, and that's all. Everything that I'm doing is within samsara, so it's not
yeah.
going to be enough, is it? According to Buddhist teaching, you know what I mean. So there you go. Okay, now
Now
it's
that
all
that's off
out there.
your chest.
That's all out there. Now it's
Yeah.
out there. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
going
And
to be
I can
broadcast
relate.
eventually.
Um,
But yet here I am. Look, here I am. I've got my beads. I say
right.
Nembutsu throughout the day. I'm always thinking about the Dharma, like off and on through the day. Things happen at work, things that students
Mm,
will say, things that, you know, that I'm
yeah.
supporting will say, things that, students that I'm supporting will say, things that I see on TV, like we were talking about earlier, in culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm out for a run. I'm listening to the Dharma. When I'm doing my jobs around the house, I have the Dharma on. I'm listening to it. I'm listening constantly. Like, but even though I have all this raging set of doubts, this quad, it's not even a trifecta anymore. It's like a quadruple, you know,
The
uh,
monkeys, there's
spectra, a
a
quad,
whole
a
squad
quad
of
spectra.
monkeys.
Yeah,
There's not just one
exactly.
monkey in the tree, there's a squad
It's
of
a
monkeys.
Oh yeah, like I said, the Planet of the Apes. Remember that? Yeah,
Planet.
I always call. I have a Planet of the Apes. I don't just have a monkey mind. I have a Planet of the Apes mind. You
No.
know, jumping
Well,
around in that. So yeah,
yeah, me too. And I think, the whole
yeah,
question of doubt is a tough one because there's things that as modern people we struggle a bit with believing, and then there's things that we just can't believe, right? Like if someone says to us if someone says, well, the earth is flat, well, I happen to know the earth is round. So no matter how much someone says you need to believe the earth is flat, you know, I'll only be able to tell that person, well, I can believe that the earth is relatively flat from the point of view that I'm on, but I happen to know that the earth as a whole is round. So I can't believe that.
or
Sorry.
well,
You know,
roundish. Even what's his name says it's
yeah.
not
Technically not a
round.
perfect
What's his
sphere, but
name? Neil
round
deGrasse
enough.
Tyson. I mean, the badass Neil deGrasse Tyson, the badass
Yeah.
of the science world, says, okay, it's not real. It's kind of wonkily shaped, but it's roundish. Yeah,
Round enough. Round enough. Okay. You could use it as a basketball if you were
roundish.
the
Yeah,
Greek god,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, so, but that's fine. Like the thing is I'm not a huge fan of this whole attempting to like become a Bronze Age person in order to believe maximally all that can be believed. I don't see the point of
Well,
that.
that's a problem. I mean, there are groups that's essentially what they're trying to do. In
Right, right. I know.
even these groups I've been a part of have
Yeah,
in mentally that's kind of what they expect. And there's certain there's certain aspects of like different religions that's what they're
yeah,
trying to do. They're actually
yeah,
trying to go back to, either, medieval mindset or Bronze Age mindset, Dark Age, you know what I mean? Just post Dark Age mindset, Bronze, go, that's literally what they want you to do, is kind of adopt that. Like they won't say that, they won't even see that themselves, but that's essentially, and they can't do that. We got to be in keeping with times and with beings, don't we? And our times
yeah,
are full of what we know now because of different disciplines and science and, understanding of the world and
right.
experience. And, you know, there's a
Yeah,
lot less just accepting things on
yeah,
fact, because we're told, or accepting things just because they're the norm, or accepting things just because that's what or that's what's taught, or that we don't just do that, or accepting just what our leaders will say, or like we just don't do that anymore. They didn't do that back then, even, really. They didn't actually do that back then. It's just maybe it was a little, they were a bit more prone to that, I guess,
mm,
being able to do that, I suppose. And they didn't have they didn't have all the tools that we have now that to see the world and the
right.
ways we see it. Anyway, yeah.
Even Shakyamuni said, um, he said, well, even if there is no rebirth and this life is all there is, the person who practices the Dharma that I've taught
We'll have a
will
better
still
life.
be better off
Yeah,
in this life
yeah,
for
yeah,
practicing that.
yeah, yeah. Which is
I always
interesting
find
that
it
that
interesting.
is, see, and that's the thing. It's things like that. It's things like that Shakyamuni taught that go right in sync with his teaching that made me go, okay, like it's not like everything else. It's not like everything else, because nothing else says that.
Right.
Nothing else
Yeah.
will say,
Fair.
well, you know, even if none of this is, that part of it isn't true, you'll have a better life if you do this, and you will.
Yeah.
And that's true. If you still followed, if you had no belief and you followed the teachings, in terms of the ways you could do it physically,
Hmm.
in this world, natural,
Hmm.
and not accepted the metaphysical, we'll call it, aspects of it, you would have a better life. That is actually true. That is true. Um,
Yeah.
but that's not all there is. That's
Well,
not that's not
it
what
kind of,
that's part of what attracts me to the teaching, but that's not what ultimately attracts me to the.
yeah, yeah. Well, of course,
It is the
that's,
totality of the teaching that attracted me to it, you know,
right.
and the
Yeah, and the,
sense that it made,
you know,
yeah,
yeah,
on all levels, intellectually, experience, emotionally, like it connected on all levels with me, whereas not really anything else. So
yeah.
anyway, sorry.
I think, and that's interesting because like I have a
And spiritually
friend,
makes sense.
uh, and this is very much an individual thing, right? Because like I have a friend who uh you know, was very, he's a Shin Buddhist now. In fact, he is going to, or already has received Kikyoshiki at Honzon. But he was also very, in the past, he told me that he was, very interested, very, um, I want to say interested in like Sufism, in
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Islamic
Yep.
mystical paths and so on, because there's some really beautiful and profound teachings in those traditions. I mean, Rumi, I think
That
everybody loves
majorly transcends the other aspects of the teachings of that. They
Yeah,
majorly,
well,
yeah. Anyway,
as with all religions, you sort of have
yeah,
the
Yeah,
bottom
you
of the
always
page.
have that. There's the yeah,
Um,
yeah. You got
Buddhism,
the
by the way,
transcendent part.
not exempt from that.
Yeah, yeah. True,
Um,
unfortunate. But I'd say not, yeah, true, true. I'd say
no,
not quite to the
yeah.
same extent and not quite as destructive. But I'd
Well,
say not, definitely not. Personally,
okay.
that's the way I see it, the way when I look at it's not as destructive. Um, anyway,
Well, but be that as
but
it may,
opinions differ, don't they? Opinions
um,
vary, as
opinions,
Dalton said.
opinions do
As
indeed
Dalton
vary.
said, opinions vary.
You know. Speaking personally, my spiritual journey went something like I started looking into different Christian denominations and so on when I was a teenager, and also reading a lot about not other faiths and religions and all of that, and that was all before I really got serious about Buddhism in my college years is really when I started to get, to really dig deep into Buddhism. First Theravada, and then I branched out into Mahayana. But even now, I mean, I still know, like I can quote the Bible better than most Christians who have probably never read the Bible. I mean, because as a child, I had to memorize like Bible verses. And it's amazing how much stuff that there is in there that's actually a lot like Buddhism. It sounds like we discussed the what was the one about not what a person eats is not what is defiling, but what their
Yeah,
thoughts, their
yeah,
intentions, what they produce in their hearts. Of course, the Buddha said it first, but
exactly.
um, in the Golden
There's many
Rule,
things like that.
famously,
There's many things like that where the Buddha
yeah,
said it first, and then it turns up in other
other, yeah.
places
And
later
the
on.
Golden
Yeah.
Rule, whether there's actually any historical connection, I have no idea. But the Golden Rule, again, very well reflected on the different traditions. Um, so, there's a sense in which, religion is a human thing, right? So to me, I always find the argument for religion from a humanist point of view. I always am annoyed by the atheist perspective that, well, there is no pie in the sky, so we should just dump, we don't need religion, and we should just be rational, whatever that means. And my issue with that is, what if religion or spirituality fills a very human need and fills human ins and I mean, just look at meditation has become very,
Mhm.
now I think it's almost universally acknowledged that meditation is good for us.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, by every institution, every religion, every
yeah,
walk of life, just common popular belief is that like,
even
yeah,
secular, you know,
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
yeah. Um, and so, you know, that is one thing that I, think about now and then. I think a lot of the questions though that you're raising are very much more philosophical than that. You're talking about things like, well, uh, the Buddhist teaching claims, that there are Buddhas in Buddha worlds throughout all dimensions. How much of that can I actually like,
Yeah.
rationally, and even there
Yeah.
it's interesting because
And the interesting, can I just interject here when you're saying that
sure, sure. Yeah.
this part of it is I part of me does believe it and part of me doesn't. Part of me does believe it and really badly, like I said, wants that to be ultimately true. Like I am motivated for it to be true. Like I am you know what I mean? Man, I operate on that. You know,
Mm,
I want it to be, not only do but I want it to be true, and I partly do believe it is true. But there is part of me that doesn't believe it's true, and I desperately don't want that. I desperately don't want just a natural pessimistic universe to be.
yeah.
That's intolerable because that's a world where it's that's just the world to just think philosophical pessimistic view of the world
Mm,
is just intolerable because it's just there's no point. We're broke. We're our consciousness is even like our sentience is like a mishap and actually works against us. So being conscious actually, do you know what I mean, is actually a detriment to and causes more of the suffering. And which all that's true. Like that's in Buddhism. That's
yeah, I would say so far this sounds a lot like
yeah,
Buddhism.
yeah, exactly. It's all Buddhist, like, but without any, there's no hope in it. It's like Buddha. It's like it's all the aspects of samsara, but without any hope that it's going to be anything else other than that. You
Yeah.
see what I mean? And you live it once, and then you're done. And it's just stupid. It's just an absurd, ridiculous, horrid, horrifying. Like to have a world that there isn't any good in nature, and it's just what we describe as samsara in the like a naturalistic universe samsara, let's say, version. Like no, there's no rebirth, there's no, and you just beings get born, people get and animals and creatures get born into this and they go through this horrid, horrifying, brutalizing thing, and then they just die. And it's just and they make up narratives to make it seem, oh, this is okay because I'm moving forward through time and I'm getting older, but like there's these phases of life, and somehow if I have a family and I have a job and it's all meaningful, and do you see what I mean? But for someone like
Yes.
me, I can't do
Yes.
that. I don't. That doesn't offer meaning to me. That doesn't.
Yeah.
None of that. It actually contributes
Right.
to the problem. Do you see what I mean?
But
So,
yeah, and I think
so
that's
it's a
the
horrifying to exist in that is a horrifying for me to come give up. If I ever get to the point, like me giving up on Buddhism is horrifying to me.
yeah.
If my mind gets to the point where it just can't like that Buddhism goes the way of everything else in my
Right.
life that has been tested uh, by
Then
me,
it's like
whether for good or for bad, or in a good way or in a bad way, or in my failing way, or in a or in a precise way,
yeah.
whatever. If the prospect of me losing Buddhism is horrifying to me, losing faith, losing that any belief that it can be true, like losing that
Mhm.
uh, last that last aspect of spirituality is horrifying to me. That's a horrifying thought that I'll just be in this pessimistic,
Yeah.
you know, this Schopenhauer universe is a horrifying prospect to me, and I can't even conceive of it. I can't even conceive how I would,
Hmm.
like because I've been there. I've been there at times. I've stayed there at times for sometimes briefly, sometimes for a day, sometimes days, sometimes weeks, sometimes months, sometimes years. It's horrible. There's nothing, there's nothing there for me. The only place that there is something for me is in Buddhism. That's literally, there's nothing here for me.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Even,
Well,
and
I think what you were.
that's not to say I don't love my family. I don't love my wife, and I don't love my in-laws and my mother, and my nieces, and I don't have friends, and like it's not to say that I don't value them and that they're not high priority to me. There they are, but without Buddhism, it's not. I just without Buddhism, it's not a good prospect.
Mm.
It's just I can't conceive of. I can't. I just can't conceive of that. Like I can conceive far less of being able to live in that than I can very easily conceive of living in Buddhism.
Mm.
You see what I mean? Which is interesting. This is something
Yes.
now I'm finally getting to. Is that when you do get the scale weigh, if you weigh this all up on the scale,
Yeah.
you know, the you know, Buddhism is definitely, you know, do you see what I mean? The scales are way tipping toward Buddhism as a way of life, as the truth,
Mhm.
as the foundational aspect of my life. Do you see what I
Right.
mean? I can't because I can't conceive of being able to exist that other way.
Well, don't you think too that
I
there's
can conceive of being, and I have experienced being in, being part of Buddhism and being
yeah.
part of this path and being part of Jodo Shinshu, and that has made my life better. My life is better because of that. My mind
Well,
is
they're
better because of that.
great.
My existence
That's
is
something to
better.
celebrate, in my opinion.
It is. It is. It is. It is. And I guess I can say I can really honestly say, and this is one thing I wanted to get to too, is that my tip, I'm much more lean toward believing, being able to see it, like actually not believe, because I don't even like that word. Um, my, I'm much more confident, convicted, um, convinced, um, trusting of the Buddhist worldview, way of life, cosmology, religion, truth, dharma. Like, it's not even a comparison to what my the other side.
Yeah.
Comparatively, it's like that. So that these doubts, even though they seem very big, they might not be as big a thing as I think. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, because most of me doesn't spend time in that. Most of me stays in Buddhism, you know, stays in that, stays on this path. Um,
Well, and
and
don't you
far
think
less
too?
than me. I'm far less inclined to that other side.
Mm.
The only reason I raise it is because it's still there. It's the doubt. These are this four factor doubt, or these four doubts, or whatever you want to call them, dancing around this dance of doubts, this dance of monkeys,
Hmm.
of doubts, barriers, and
Yeah.
Hakarai, the Hakarai hustle. It's the Hakarai hustle,
I love
we'll call it.
it.
Is a very strong thing. It's
Yeah.
as far as the doubts, it's the biggest one. But that doesn't mean it's bigger than my trust and hope
Yeah.
and investment. I'm far more invested and hopeful and convinced and trusting of Buddhism than I am of that philosophical, pessimistic, existentially absurd view. I just, do you know what I
Mm.
mean? Far more. Like it's not even it's like, you know, the Tao, this is like the Tao, and this is my
Yeah.
Buddhism, and this is my leaning toward that.
Yeah.
And this is my being able to conceive of Buddhism as true, and being able to conceive of existing in that
Right.
framework
And I
is
think
this
what
minuscule
you
comparatively,
said.
but
Oh,
it's
sorry,
still so
you might have
strong
cut
and
out there a
persistent.
little bit.
Sorry, can you hear me? Hold on.
Oh, are you there?
Yeah, hold on. Let's go off camera. Let's try that.
Okay, we're back. Yeah, it's good now.
Go off camera. Can you go off camera?
Um,
Go off camera for a second.
Yeah,
Can
I
you hear me?
wonder. I can hear you. Yes, I'm going to look and see. Maybe I have my video on too high of a setting or something. It's something I was sort of wondering about.
Yeah, it could
Um,
be.
I
Yeah,
don't
there is two
know.
different. There's at least two different settings for that.
Yeah.
You want to just go off camera for now because we're kind of nearing the end of our session, I think. So
Sure. Yeah, we could
yeah,
try that. Okay. Yeah, let me just stop the video. There we go. Okay.
yeah. So the reason
Um,
I raise it is because even though it's compared to my investment in Buddhism compared to my
mm,
investment in that other thing is there's no comparison. It's the my investment in that doubt, that suite of
yeah.
doubts, is probably you know very small percentage of my whole you know what do you want to call that, spiritual investment.
Mm,
Whereas the 90% of it,
I,
95%, I'm in with, you know what I mean? But there's still that five, even if it's 1%, even if it was 99% Buddhism and 1% this, it's still there. And like you said,
like a
if you look at it
splinter in
clear,
your finger.
yeah, exactly. Ter- like a splinter in your mind, driving you
Very,
mad.
very badly
As
involved.
Morpheus would say, as Morpheus, like a splinter in your mind,
There you
driving you mad. Anyway,
go.
but yeah, uh, but it is a mess in that channel. The channel, most of the channel, if you look up and down that channel of channels of faith, probably, there's some murky bits and there's some bits here and there that still need clearing, and you know what I mean. You're going to
Yeah,
see that up and down, but this one spot, for the most part, it's flowing decently. You know what I mean? It's flowing pretty well.
yeah.
But this one spot, whew, it's a,
It's a big
it's
stone.
a, it's Big Stone, Beaver Dam, tangled branches, grasses, tangled
Yeah,
netting that's falling in there, and rubbish,
yeah.
accumulated, and it's just stopping the flow. And it's yeah,
See,
it's probably compared to the whole channel, the giant, length of the channel. It's just this one strip, it's this one bit, but it definitely is a
yeah,
blockage. So
yeah.
yeah. So anyway, that's
I
that's
definitely can relate. Um, I think, but isn't there too, like, there is a step by step part of the process where you don't necessarily, well, especially in Buddhism, you don't have to like just wholesale you know, how to say, um accept every last possible implication in
mm,
order to take the next step on the path, right? Like you said, just being a Shin Buddhist has given you, I forget the words you used, but peace or joy or some sense of
yeah.
satisfaction. And I realize this might sound kind of like, well, look how happy you are here, so why would you leave? I mean, I'm not trying to put it in those terms,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, but I am saying like there's, I think there's a point where you actually start to let there. I think as you live with the Dharma,
Hmm.
and especially as you start to see the Dharma as it truly is in Buddhism as not so much something that I have to like uh, that I have to
Yeah.
conceptualize, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But something that is actually embracing me and working on me.
Hmm. Hmm.
As
Which
that
is
shift
that's
sort of
yeah.
happens, you'll I think you'd be surprised at how some of these things that you thought were huge issues, um, like in what way does the Pure Land exist, this kind of stuff, they actually
Yeah.
start to like just sort of not become problems.
Well, yeah,
Oddly enough, you know.
I don't really have, it's not even like maybe there was a time where I did try to figure it out that way, where I had that kind of calculate how is it, how exactly does that exist in the cosmology, da da da. It's still maybe a bit, but that's mostly not. I can just accept that it is somehow true without knowing how that's true. Do you see what I mean? In that sense.
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
this
It's
is the
true
thing.
somehow, but who knows how, kind of.
Yeah. And there's times where I can see that this is all Jodo Shinshu Buddhist teaching is, it is working on me. It's working. I'm not
Yeah.
working it. It's working me. It's working on me. And it has been. And I can, when I'm in, a better frame of mind, I can kind of, I can not kind of, I can definitely see that, that's happening and
Mhm.
been happening. I mean, I am very different than I was, because of I'm a very different person because of Jodo Shinshu, definitely. Because of Buddhism, firstly, and then because of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, probably more particularly, a different, different person. And even more so over the past few years, um, since I really dug in, maybe past several to few years since I really
Yeah.
started digging in and getting closer to really being on this path, doing the Dharma dialogue the way that it should be done,
Yeah.
with no stone unturned, and
Right.
nothing held back.
No holds
Um,
barred.
exactly, and listening with my whole mind, heart to the teachings,
Yeah.
and not worrying whether it's self power or not, or that's all just calculations anyway. But you know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Right.
it's Amida's. It's all Amida's work. It's all Amida's practice.
Hmm.
It's all Amida's teaching. I'm just doing it. I'm just showing up for it. He's doing it through me. We'll say,
Yeah.
like that's kind of how I kind of see it. And like when when I'm in the groove with it, when I'm on that 95% side or 97% or 99% side, we can easily see that, and I see that that's working, and I see that, you know, I don't have to figure it all out. But part of part of I think part of Amida enabling me to do all this it includes me talking about this doubt,
Hmm.
and talking
Right.
honestly about it and getting clear about it and
Yeah.
discussing it. And at the same time, knowing I'm not going to talk myself out of it. Jokan's not going to talk me out of it. Amida is gonna not talk work me out of it. Amida is going to clear it. Amida is going to work me out of it. Amida is
Right.
going to do that. That's the that's who's clearing the channel. You know, you and I
Yeah.
aren't clearing the channel. We're showing up and we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and having Dharma dialogue. But this is Amida's practice. This is how Amida
Yeah.
gets his job done. This is how Amida does his work.
Yeah.
Is our response to his Dharma. So we do these things, which he's enabling us to do. I'm not. I can't. I wouldn't be able to do this
Hmm.
without him doing it. If you see what I mean.
Right.
Without him enabling me to, I've never been like gone to this, level of disclosing
Yes.
my inner workings and doubts and questions. You know,
Yeah.
um, never, never.
And
Um,
I do
in
think
12
that's
steps,
the
I came close. In 12
yeah.
steps, I came to a certain level with that because of, the inventory, the fearless. I did so many fearless and thorough moral inventories over the years. I must have done at least 12, 10 or 10 to 12 of them. And then did the whole talking to somebody about everything on that list, and I was very thorough, but still not as thorough as I'm being now about the really important things that then those
Yeah,
things matter. What I was dealing with there, but this is the core stuff. You see what I mean?
right, right.
This is the core stuff I never came even close to getting to. That the Dharma dialogue that Amida, you know, allows to happen. Um,
Right.
so that's, so I see that. I'm not going to talk myself out. You're not going to talk me out of it. Not even Shinron is going to talk me out of it. If anybody could, it would be Shinron, but it's going to be Amida that, that's going to do the clearing
Yeah.
ultimately.
Yeah, and don't you think too,
So,
like part of the process is just getting it out there? Like I think
yes.
even
Yeah. I feel
tonight
such relief when I finally get there. Like I
you were
know when I got
visibly
there.
relieved, I think, when you
I
had
did, yeah. You
gotten
saw it. You
off
actually
your
saw it happen.
chest.
I was like, there, that's it. That's it. There it is. Now it's like I wasn't quite done yet, and then I got there. I was like, okay, that's it. That's everything. That's the whole thing. Yeah,
Oh,
and it definitely is part of the process. I no doubt, which is why I'm doing it. So, I'm obviously 99.9% invested in this path to invested in the confident, convinced,
yeah,
trusting of this path that I'm still doing this. I still wear my beads, you know what I mean, every day. Not that you have to wear beads as a Jodashinshu, but that's just part of what I do. That's part of my karmic
yeah,
life. You know what I mean? I feel like that I do want to have my Menju with me, most of the time. And I do want to say that and I naturally do those things. I don't go, okay, now I'm going to put on my Nenju and think of Amida Buddha. And do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, it's just a natural thing of how, and the way my altar even came together. That just naturally, you know what I mean? Okay, oh, I'll add this. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I can get this. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like I followed some
yeah,
formula or I thought, well, I'm doing this because it's because of, do you know what I mean?
right,
It's just a natural thing that happens where I'm saying
yeah.
Nimbutsu, where I'm holding it. And that's far more
Which is
natural to
as it
me
should
than,
be, right?
yeah, yes, exactly. Exactly. So I think it's a natural part of the process for me for this, that's just the doubts to get them up, get
Yeah.
them out
I,
there.
I still think that and I've always thought, I mean, the real heart of what we have to get down with in Buddhism is actually, what Honen Shonin said, which is the famous words, no working is true working. I mean that
Yes,
is, if
that
we
is
can
it.
get
Yeah.
to the heart of that, then that's kind of where
Yeah.
it all is, at the most basic and profound level,
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, that's what we're here for, so to speak, basically, is to dig into that and to realize it, ideally.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Um,
And and it's a tough one. I think I would say it's harder than any Zen code in some way. I mean, it's why,
yes.
like Shinron says, enlightenment is easy and it's Shinjin that's hard.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Or the doubts that are, the doubts. It's like so much that to me now, like those questions and doubts about, or the calculations about, oh, am I saying the Butsu in a felt powered way, or should I be counting on my Nembutsu, or I'm not sorry, counting on my Ninju, or should I be, you
Mhm.
know, or am I, because I'm really trying really hard to listen, deeply listen, is that kind of self power? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like none of that. Like, first of all, it doesn't matter. Even if you're thinking that, just do it. eventually it won't. Eventually that will go away. That's what happened with me. Is
Right.
me wondering whether wondering and worrying whether it was self power or not. I just got on with it, and eventually that's not there. That doesn't even come in anymore. That kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I just it's I just let it kind of happen. If you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I don't even think about those things anymore. Whether I'm reading in a self-powered way or saying the books in a self-powered way or
Right.
listening
Yeah.
deeply in a self or doing Dharma dialogue in self-powered, like that doesn't even come into my mind now. I know it's
Yeah.
Amida's process. I know it's all Amida's working. I'm just showing up barely.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I'm just it's Amina's working. I'm just doing it. It's Amina's
Yeah.
practice. I just it's Amina's call. I'm just saying it. You see what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
Absolutely. And
um,
that's exactly what no working, or that is, part of what it's about, right? The
yeah.
water over the stone.
Whew.
No
Yeah.
working is true working, the
Exactly.
water, the Dharma, drilling a hole even in the hardest stone.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. I just want to have
it's
a deluge on this part of the channel. I want to have like a deluge, like a deluge. I want to have like you know, a
Dharma
sudden
deluge.
like somewhere else, like there's a dam somewhere else that broke, and I want it to
Yeah,
just come crashing through this. I just get rid of them, because they're just a bear. They're a
yeah.
bear. They're a thorn. They're a thorn in my
It's like,
side. They're a
right.
hangnail. They're a splinter. You know what I mean?
It's like if you're
Just
skateboarding and
constant.
you've got this,
Con-
you're smoothly cruising along and everything
yeah,
is great, and then you hit
yeah.
that one little pebble.
Little pebble. Exactly. That's exactly like this. Yeah. Boom. You know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose that can be, it's like in the Buddhist teaching, in the Jodashinja Buddhist teaching, of course
Hmm.
I'm going to have those pebbles. Of course I'm going to have all these doubts and these calculations and these questions because I am a bamboo. That is the samsaric consciousness at work. Um,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So there's times where when I'm really in it, where I have almost like a positive, like, yeah, that reminds me I'm a bamboo. Good, good.
Right.
Thanks. Thanks for reminding me. you know? So
Exactly.
anyway,
And yeah, it's a good conversation.
so
I mean, it's hard to because I know you're already way past like all the trite answers, you've heard them all. And
yes,
I'm not satisfied by them
exactly.
either. So you're
Yeah,
not going to
exactly. And I
hear
wouldn't
each of
expect
them
them
from
from
me,
you,
you
you
know?
know? Yeah, I would not have expected them from you anyway. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, but that wouldn't even cross my mind. But also, like, the pressure isn't on you. That's the beauty
Right.
of Dharma dialogue. The pressure isn't on you, it's on Amida.
Yeah.
The pressure is not
Exactly.
on
Now,
me.
I can
It's not even
recommend,
on me to try to get it out, but it does feel good
yeah,
when you do finally get it all
but I can
out.
definitely recommend reading, the collected works of Shinron,
Oh
the
yeah,
Chom,
and keep going.
listening. That's
I'm gonna
that's
keep
really
going.
where it's at.
Yeah.
You got to work
Yeah,
with
I'm gonna keep. Yeah, I started the Fukumoto sequence project, and I am continuing it. I am gonna continue that because I've
good.
gone through the three Pure Land Sutras now, and I've started volume
Yeah,
one, collected works, and
that's
which is
great.
obviously Kyoyo Shincho, which at some point we need to come back to and discuss that first chapter. Speaking of doubts, a
Oh
question.
yeah,
That's more
yeah,
question. It's more question than a doubt, but it's a doubt. It's a doubt. It's a question that leads to doubts, I guess, of
yeah,
of like the beginning and the end of that. I'm like, yeah, I'm all on board. But why is that? How's that?
How does
why
this
couldn't you say
relate?
that about any other sutra? These major events. Why didn't they just point to the ultimate reason that Shakyamuni
Not
came?
to mention
You
that
see,
the Lotus Sutra explicitly
that
says that it's the
yeah,
sutra for which Shakyamuni came, whereas the
yeah,
larger sutra
ex-
doesn't explicitly
exactly.
make
That's
that
what
claim.
exactly. Right. So I know that's partly skill and means, and the Buddha. It's all true from the Buddha side. It's all yeah, it's true. Everything they said is true, but like, and we can't see it. But you see what I'm saying? I just need to talk
Oh
about
yeah, no, I get
that
where
first
you're
chapter.
coming
I've
from.
gone past the first chapter, but yeah, and I've read that before, um, but
No,
and I still have the same question about it. It's never that question's never gone away. So we need to get that. So I'm still on the Fukumoto sequence project. Definitely, I'm still on it. I'm on it. It
right.
did get a little bit curtailed during the very busy festive, well, the traditional festive season, I would say, um, with because of family and friends and
Oh yeah.
all the
Well,
plans around that, and trying to get caught up with
make a
things
job out of
afterward,
it.
you
You know?
know. But uh, but anyway, I am continuing on that definitely, and I know, and that's key. It's made such a difference doing that. That made such a huge difference. Tackling or not tackling it. That's not like approaching it in that way. Approaching it in this way has made a huge difference. The connections of connections of teaching, connecting all up, just my attitude, my
Yeah.
ability to be receptive of things. It's all it's Amida's. It's all Amida's working. I'll just say that through the Fukumoto sequence, as I call it. So
Yeah. Well, part of it is, I think, with Chomon, with listening, is just
yeah,
disciplining mind to uh to focus on the teaching, right? And to
yeah,
not to just let go of, the ongoing rush and
mm,
flow of life and its
hmm,
worries, to just be present with the Dharma here and now, you know,
hmm,
and
hmm.
as if like we say, as if it's the first time you're hearing it, and as
Yes,
if it's the only time you're hearing it, and as if, it's intended for you alone.
exactly. Which
I
it
think
is,
it's part of the is the whole, part of the
and
practice there, if we could call it that.
and it's as if your whole um, health,
Life depended on it.
well-being, and life depends on it because it does. It
Yeah.
depends on that. The diagnosis, it's the medicine. It depends on the medicine. It depends on. It needs the
Yeah.
medicine. It needs the diagnosis. Needs the prognosis, which we got. Oh yeah, got the diagnosis from Giacomuni. Got the prognosis from Giacomuni. Got the treatment, the prescription, and then the treatment. Of the medicine and the treatment. And we need
All right.
it. Yeah, absolutely. Our life does. Our health, well-being, life, everything, mind, heart depends on it.
Yeah, and in the broadest possible sense too, because I
Hmm.
mean, human beings can't we literally can't survive without compassion and without, you know, uh truth and goodness
Light,
and
the light,
all
the
of
wisdom.
and light
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and un what is it?
Un- unconditional,
Word I'm looking for. Yes, unconditional love. I mean, these things are literally
unconditioned.
essential.
Yeah,
And this is all the content
yeah.
of this is all what the Dharma is
Is
all about.
yeah, centrally is the ultimate unconditional compassion, the ultimate unconditioned wisdom.
Right.
Boom, boom.
Boom.
Unconditioned, the ultimate unconditional compassion, the ultimate unconditioned wisdom.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Boom.
Chie and Jihi, right? In Japanese.
I would do a Hasu drop myself on that, but you're not supposed to really do that in Buddhism because then you lose the Hasu. Yeah. Anyway, just kidding. You lose the right to hold the Hasu. Anyway, just kidding. Anyways, a little bit of humor there.
Yeah.
Very little. Very little.
A little goes a
All right.
long
Oh,
way.
I also just to quickly tell you, I also bought one of my post festive season gifts.
Yeah.
I got the Jodo Shinshu A Guide by the
Oh,
Hongwanji.
oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
I
That's a
finally
good
got it.
read. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been wanting. It took a while to get it, but I got it through Amazon.
Awesome.
I got it through Amazon.
Oh, cool.
So yeah. Anyways,
That's a good one.
and it wasn't exorbitantly expensive through
Yeah.
Amazon either. A lot of times these kind of books will be, you know what I mean,
Yeah. Overpriced because they're not
jacked
necessarily
up.
available in the region or
Yeah. Yep.
yeah.
Exactly. So,
Well, that's great. I would say,
yeah.
I would also recommend like read that maybe alongside or even before you dive
Mm-hmm.
into collected works of Shinron,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it's a great overview. It's like a great outline. And
Yeah.
I was gonna say too, with collected works of Shinron, you can definitely dive straight into Kyogyo Shinsho, but you are going to have a hard time with some parts of it because it's just such a dense work.
Oh,
And
it's
one
so
thing
comprehensive
that
and so
right,
like it's just so referenced like and you have to trace back who's speaking now. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
who's being referenced now because there's like references within, you know.
right.
Uh,
One thing to keep in
yeah,
mind, a little hint that I've found,
yeah.
um, the order of the references is always
Yeah.
the same. You'll
Oh,
notice in every
I meant
it all
the
starts
the
with
quotes within quotes, quotes within quotes. Is that are you talking about the actual text itself, not the? When I said references, I was meaning who he was quoting, who Shinron
right,
was
right.
quoting.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
mean. Yeah.
Okay.
The
Yeah. Yeah.
quotes are
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
always they're always in the same order, which is
Okay.
first Shinron quotes the sutras,
Yeah.
and then he quotes the commentary, which of course is the classical Buddhist approach. You
Yeah.
always quote the sutra and then you
Any
quote the commentary. But
commentaries,
the
and then he does
order
the
of the
Dharma Masters in
commentary,
order. Does he do the Dharma Masters in order of them or no?
correct. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
So
So
the
from
order of the seven masters is
yeah.
always in order. So
Right.
that's just helpful.
Gotcha. Yeah, it does. That does. Yeah, that did help when I found that out. I never kind of clocked that sort of pattern to it, but it definitely helps, knowing that and being reminded of it. Sometimes I do forget these things.
Right.
Anytime you want to offer information, please do. Even if you think we've discussed it before, please do, because I need reminding of these
Well,
kinds of.
the one thing I would suggest, not necessarily recommend, but suggest is you might consider reading collected works of Shinron from the shorter works first,
Mm,
and
hmm.
then in especially the Wasan, the hymns,
Yeah.
which are
Yeah.
very easy to read, and
Hmm.
uh, and then go back and work your way through
Mm.
Kyogyo Shin would be one way of going about it,
I I have thought about that because it always struck me. I mean, this is his. I mean, he did this much later in life, didn't he? Too
Oh yeah, yeah.
the Kyogo Shincho. So it's almost like you'd be reading it in the order he wrote things more if you started
Right.
elsewhere. You see what I mean? Yeah. So.
Yeah. And so that would just be one idea, but
Mm,
I would say do what works for you. There's no right
yeah.
or wrong.
Exactly. Or what seems the natural course. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, and also
Excellent.
make
Well,
make use of the second volume. The second volume is actually
yes,
the real gold mine.
because it's the little explanations and
Right, yeah. So you
things.
want to make
Yeah,
sure you're kind of reading that alongside, or
side of
maybe the
yeah with
introductions, and then read
and
the
then read
text. Or,
the actual texts. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good advice. Yeah, no, thank you so much um, for all these suggestions. They're hugely helpful, hugely helpful. And I
good.
will take them on board. So, yeah, shall we come back on camera and do some? Let's do. Thank you
Yes.
so much. This has been a
Oh,
really good session. Wow, like
yeah.
talk about Dharma dialogue, man. Talk about not hiding over hedge, man. I'm
Yeah.
like, I've just jumped into like, I've just like jumped right up there. I just jumped right in. Hey,
Awesome.
Renyo, hello. Let's talk. Let's talk. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. I would never
It
be
was.
that irreverent. If I was actually in the presence of Renyo or Shinron, I would never be that irreverent. But anyway.
Unless you were EQ, and then you might get away with it.
Naughty, naughty EQ.
All right. Gosh, so Namo Amida Butsu.
Idiots.
Namo Amida
Namo
Butsu.
Amidabutsu.
Amida Butsu.
Namo
Naman
Amidabutsu.
Butsu.
Namo
Naman Butsu.
Nam. No. No. No.
All
No.
right.
Yeah.
Great conversation. Okay, so now about our next meeting, because this is probably going to have to be the last meeting for a little while. I am going to be
Okay.
for the next month or so pretty booked with moving back.
Okay. Good.
So maybe we can look to maybe we can take a break and you can
Yeah.
post some videos from the
I don't know
backlog.
if you've noticed. I've been going. Have you noticed? I've
Yes,
been
yes,
going
I did notice.
crazy
Yeah,
loading content like crazy. I'm just
yeah,
not promoting it yet, but I'm just
yeah.
getting it up.
That's
I'm
great.
just like, I'm bound and determined to get caught up to the present, to get so that it's just, we do a record and then I upload it. You know what I mean? Maybe the next week
Yeah.
or something, but yeah, but
So
anyway,
looking at my
yeah, get caught
calendar,
up. Yeah.
it's looking like oh boy. It's gonna probably be like later in March, maybe mid March or after, because
Okay. Okay. We'll
I'm
see
gonna
where
be
we're
back.
at then at that
Yeah,
point.
and then so let's keep in touch on Messenger
Okay.
and just see how things go.
Okay.
But we will have to take a little bit of a hiatus
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
for
that's
that.
absolutely fine.
So
I'll
lots of
lean into
reading,
my Dharma brothers too, if as always,
absolutely.
from
And of
our
course,
weekly meeting.
collected works of Shinron is great. Maybe make some notes and we can discuss
Keep
things
going.
up.
Definitely, definitely. Sounds good. All right. Well,
All
thank you
right.
as
Well,
always. Take care.
yeah, absolutely.
Safe.
Pleasure.
I hope everything goes well with your moving and packing and
Oh yes.
organizing and then safe journeys
I'm so
to
looking
get
forward to
there.
it.
Yeah. And then we'll have to adjust our schedule. So I'll be in the evenings and you'll be in the mornings
Right. Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
Sunday. It'll have to be. Yeah. So,
All right.
all righty then. Take care.
Okay.
All
Take
the best
care.
to you, my friend.
And
All right. Bye.
yeah, we'll talk again. See ya.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye bye.